This is a story of a man who roughly ate 6,570 Fillet-o-fish at McDonald's, but also got stuck in an airport for 18 years, and made anywhere up to $1 million. The man in question is quite mysterious and is known as Sir Alfred, not his real name of course, but a name that stuck. Sir Alfred was an interesting character facing many issues of self-sabotage, mistrust, delusions, and suffered a psychological break so profound that even when he could leave the airport, he did not want to. This finally ended when he suffered a massive heart attack in the same place that he lived for 18 years of his life, still in the same airport. And no wonder, I've faced mistrust before and she is a force to be reckoned with. You will hand in your homework on time. Sir Alfred first arrived in the airport on August 26, 1988, and he was a quiet, soft-spoken man in his early 40s, with a little lack of hair, hoping to fly to England to meet his biological mother, who was a Scottish nurse. Just like any other passenger, he boarded the plane and tried to attempt to fly to London, but he failed to provide a passport at customs. He was then detained and sent back to the Charles de Gaulle airport in Paris for the unlawful attempt into England. And then once in the Charles de Gaulle airport, he couldn't actually leave the airport as this would be breaking some laws, as he actually arrived to Paris from Iran, where he was thrown out of the country basically for rebelling against the monarchy at the time. This led to his entire citizenship being revoked, which is very, very hard to do. But at the time, he managed it. So he couldn't go to England because he didn't have a passport with him. He couldn't go back to Iran because he was thrown out of there. So he was kind of just stuck in this weird limbo in Paris. If he was to leave the airport premises, then he would have been arrested and thrown into prison. So he just kind of sat there and stayed there and found this lovely red bench. I mean, the way the markets are going at the moment, I would be more than fortunate to live in this nice place with a lovely red bench. I mean, the best I can afford at the moment is just a cardboard box with maybe a light and a bowl for my crisps. Sir Alfred was now completely stuck. Luckily, in the airport it contained an electronics store, a physician's, a post office, and the assortment of any other shop you could think of, as this was a fairly large airport. But it also contained a McDonald's where every single day he would have a Fillet-o-fish. He even managed to open a bank account with the post office so he could access his savings and just spend his money how he wanted to. However, he didn't really need to touch his savings, as people would donate money to him quite regularly. And he would just sit there and watch the world go by, often buying a daily newspaper just to do the crossword, read about daily events, and, talk to anyone who wanted to hear his story. He then slowly became more and more famous and got international recognition, where eventually people at DreamWorks decided to make a film about him. This film is called The Terminal and is a romantic comedy and is loosely based off Sir Alfred's life. And to ensure that Sir Alfred wouldn't sue them, DreamWorks gave him a sum of money anywhere between $250,000 and $1 million. The source for this is wildly estimated, but no one really knows. And with this film, his popularity exploded. Everyone just wanted to meet this guy in this unusual situation. But this is where some questions come into play about Alfred's state of mind. Throughout this entire time, the airport physician actually helped Sir Alfred to get a passport, and there was some kind of a deal in place with going to Britain. However, on the documents, it stated that his name wasn't Sir Alfred, it was his birth name, and this made Alfred very, very upset, and he said he would refuse to sign any documents or acknowledge any passports that used his old name. So in fact, Alfred could leave the airport, he just didn't want to after a certain time. But make no mistake, he was there for a long time, but he could have just ended it a bit shorter. Many people theorise that the fame and the wealth and the money kind of got to his head a little bit and he didn't want to leave. Kind of like when you leave someone in prison for too long and they become institutionalised and they don't actually want to leave at the end of it. Many commented that after 16 years, he might not actually know what to do in the real world anymore. It had been a very, very long time. Towards the end of the 16 years, Alfred actually got moved on and was put in a homeless shelter, but then after 2 years, he went to then relive back in the Charles de Gaulle airport on his red bench, and eventually suffered a massive heart attack and sadly died. There are a few other notable weird things that happened with Sir Alfred. He would only be called Sir Alfred, he wouldn't be called by his actual birth name, he wouldn't speak any other language apart from English, and he kind of lied and manipulated people and just didn't really tell them the truth at any point, leading his backstory and his life previous to being in the airport kind of a mystery, with multiple conflicting opinions about his origins.